Alright, what you see here is a Hampton Bay Redington 4 ceiling fan. This I got off of Facebook Marketplace back in November of 2020 for $10. Drove out quite a bit to pick it up, but it's a fan I've been wanting since I was a kid, so I figured why not. It's about, I think, an hour drive just one way, and so it was a 2-hour drive altogether, but for $10 I can't complain, and plus I haven't seen one show up near me since for that, so yeah. Actually, no, there was another one that showed up afterwards, but it was a lot more pricey, and this one was in better shape. So, yeah. Now, this fan's actually made by Aircool. It's not made by King of Fans. So, the performance on this one's a lot better than you'd expect. Performance on this is about the same as the Hampton Bay Cameron 2, made by King of Fans, coincidentally, but it's a more higher-end King of Fans made fan. The motor on this has to be at least a 172 motor, or possibly it could be even a 188. I'm not 100% sure, but I know for a fact that it's not a 153 motor in this Aircool one. So it definitely has a good sized motor. The metal parts on this are definitely more solid than the brushed steel one that I have. That's made by King of Fans. The blade arms are heavier. The metal is more thick on it. So basically the whole fan's just a lot better built. So they introduced these in 2005, the white ones with the spotlight. The Redington 4 originally came out in 2003 to 2004, I think. In 2003 was the last year they just sold it as a 3, and they sold them side by side, I think. Or the Redington 4s, I know they came out in 2004 because I remember seeing them in stores in the box with the pull chains. And then the year after, they came out with a different version of the white Redington 4 with the spotlight that you see on it here. They did make a Redington 4 in all white with just the regular 4 light, like the white and brass and the antique brass one. But that version's a lot harder to find, as that one only was sold for a year, whereas this one was sold for a few years. Now, I'm not sure how long they made the Aircool version of this. But yeah, it's a fan I've liked a lot since I was a kid. I remember seeing it in the '05 catalog, with the Bleached side being shown in the catalog, and I really liked it a lot, to the point that I even, had I not went ahead and put the KDK Industrial in my bedroom at the time, because I was thinking of changing out the baseball fan with something else. And that's because I liked it, but I kind of got bored of it somewhat quickly. And I thought of putting one of these in there in the bedroom at my old apartment. Though at the time it was in a smaller bedroom, not the one that I had when I started the channel. But I ended up going with the KDK, and I'm glad I did because it was for my uncle who's now passed on, and it would have been cool having one of these, so I feel like I would have wore it out a lot quicker, messing around with it. But and I also know these were a bit pricier. These are like $150, so they were a more pricey Hampton Bay fan at the time. But yeah, this one came out of the kitchen, and it honestly is in really good shape for its age, considering that's it was in the kitchen. Though the person told me they didn't really use it much, but surprisingly the blades didn't warp downwards from not being used that much over the years. It had the white side facing down, and now I'm showing it with the bleached oak blades. Some parts kind of yellowed a little bit over the years, like the spotlight and the upper part of the motor and the canopies and such, but that's more so from like the grease in the kitchen, or the very lack of that it got. But it's yellowed a little bit, but it could be a lot worse considering it was in the kitchen. The fact that it cleaned up so good, despite being in the kitchen, is actually pretty impressive. But they definitely had an extractor in that kitchen. I think it was just more so, I mean, they definitely used it, but it wasn't like filthy or anything. The fan was actually pretty clean. It was just more so wiping off your little extra bits of grease that the extractor didn't catch. I mean, even the low profile pluses in my kitchen kind of, even though we have the extractor, it does sometimes get a little bit of grease on it. Not too much, but definitely it's a little bit yellowed. But that fan was yellowed to begin with since I put it up, which is the other reason why that fan went in the kitchen after the Passport 2. But yeah, almost every fan I've had in my bedroom, I kind of wanted it to be like somewhat similar to this. After we replaced the KDK with like the Glendale and then the Passport 2 that was in my bedroom, I was honestly trying to have it look like this as much as possible, but it was just more vintage looking. And then the Infinity, at the time I didn't have bleach oak blades from the Right at Home, the cashmere one. If I did, the Infinity probably would have remained in my bedroom for a longer period of time. And a low profile, but I just wanted to hug her in the bedroom at that point. A white low profile, because it was always a childhood dream of having one in my room. And then the Panama that's in there now. Now, this fan's actually something I'd actually consider putting in my bedroom, but it's just, I know it wouldn't be permanent, so I'd rather not put it up just for a short period. At this point, I'm just more about if I'm going to install a fan, I'd rather it be in permanent install unless I find something that I like better. But right now, there's nothing in there that I have in my collection that I like better than a Panama 2 in my room, so it's not going anywhere. Now, this is actually something I would consider putting in the kitchen. Problem is, my mom likes better lighting for the kitchen, and the other issue is that the kitchen ceiling has a bit of a hole from when the Harvey's Cheshire was there. Because whoever installed it back when they first put it up, back in the early 2000s, since fans from 2003, Cheshire, they cut a hole about the same size as the housing of the fan. I don't know why, but because of that, unless you put a hugger fan, you need to put if you're going to have a fan that's flush mounted, that's not a hugger, you need to have a medallion just to cover up the hole. And I really don't like how that looks, and especially on this fan, I really would not like how it would look, so I'd rather just leave the fan that's there now, and whenever I get my own place, this will probably be the next kitchen fan, possibly. Not 100% sure, but it's definitely a good possibility. So, yeah. I really do like the pull chains and the logo on it being white and black and not white and chrome. I really do like the white and chrome, but on this fan specifically, I think the white and black goes a lot better with the fan. And it definitely holds up a lot better too. Like the black portions on it, the paint feels a lot more thick than the thin chrome that they paint over it on the other pull chains and such. But yeah, you can definitely see that it has the air-cooled style motor too. I mean, the King of Fan ones, I know they have vents in them too, but the motor on this, you can definitely tell it's an air-cooled motor just by looking at it. I don't think they ever made the other versions like my air-cooled, this brushed steel one, because the only one that seems to be made by air-cooled is this white version. The fan itself is from March of 2005, though there is an earlier date on it from the UO sticker, but I'm going by the actual sticker for the fan info itself. So it was basically right as this fan was introduced is when this fan was made. So yeah, let me go ahead and show the light. Fortunately, it is not a three-way spotlight, but if I was to use this in the kitchen, I probably would want all four lights on anyways. I always did like the Redington 4 and the brushed steel finish, but after seeing the white one with the spotlight, for some reason I like the white one more, even though I really do like the brushed steel one. I always did like contemporary looking fans like these. Like they were still simple looking, but they had more of a contemporary look instead of the traditional look, like a Landmark, Panama, stuff like that. Like had more of like a Hunter Infinity look, where it was more of a contemporary look on a traditional fan. But I've always liked how they look with spotlights, which is why I have every Infinity that I've installed so far, I've done it with the spotlight. In a lot of ways, it was kind of paying homage to the Redington 3, Redington 4, because those were the first contemporary fans I saw as a kid with spotlights. So, yeah. Gives off good lighting. These LED bulbs are actually from the panel 2 in my bedroom. I've retired to using these because I put a new receiver in that fan and remote, so it's no longer on the Fanimation one. I have it on just a simple Hampton Bay one, but it has more features than the Fanimation one did, so yeah. And now to the fan, start off on low. And I'm back to the light bulbs. I'm using these as a test light bulbs now because the issue is that I've had these light bulbs in the fan in my bedroom for the past 5 years now. Well, originally they were in the low profile, but when I swapped out that fan for the pan number two, that's in there currently. I transferred the bulbs over, but when I put the new receiver in for the new remote, it had a dimming feature set up and such. The bulbs actually had quite a bit of a buzz to them, and that was more so from the bulbs being worn out from all the use I've over the years. So I figured maybe just put newer bulbs in it. They were also a little bit brighter. They're 75 watts. These are just 60 watt. These are green light ones that they have a weird shape to them. They're spotlight bulbs, but they don't. But the center of it, it's kind of like an empty gap, and it's just like two rods that kind of hold it together. I know I showed it in the video of it with the white side facing down, I think so. But I've showed them in the past in videos, so I'll definitely, if you want to look at them, you can check those out. But, back to this fan itself. I remember like even seeing this on display. I really liked it a lot, and I remember when they discontinued it, I was pretty bummed out because I always did want to get one of these, and I mean, 15, 16 this years later, I finally got one. But I remember like when I decided to go back to having a residential fan in my bedroom instead of the KDK, that same one that I tested down here in the basement a few years back. I remember that had they still sold this, I would have went and bought one of these for the bedroom. And since it was unfortunately discontinued by then, which was back in 2012, I ended up going for the Glendale because it had like a more updated look of a traditional fan, which I liked. Basically, it looked like a Landmark Plus, but just a little bit more updated, which I thought was cool looking. But if they had this, even though it was more pricey, like twice the price of what the Glendale went for back then, which was like $69, I know for a fact that I would have went with this no matter, even if it was like double the price. And even though the Glendale was made by Airco as well, it's definitely not the same quality of Airco product from Hampton. That was an Airco made Hampton Bay fan from back in the 2000s era, or even from the late 90s. I mean, the Airco ones from back then are definitely a much higher quality than what they have from the past 10 years or so. And no, honestly, though, if it wasn't for the medallion issue in the kitchen here, I actually would swap out the Low Profile Plus for this fan. The other thing is that I feel like it would get more worn out in this kitchen, but maybe not. I mean, the Low Profile Plus holds up pretty well there. But the blades on that fan have warped a bit over the years since I've installed it almost 5 years ago now. And I wouldn't want that to happen with this one, even though I could just find a quick connect and just put different blades on this. But when I get my own place and it has a more structure that's a little bit better than what we have, I'd probably be more comfortable doing it. But it's also, since the kitchen's kind of small, if I was to have my own kitchen in my own house, I'd have a kitchen with spotlights on the fan, but also track lighting as well. Kind of like how Cleveland Fan Collector had it in his old house. In the kitchen, like have track lighting hitting the cabinet area. You know, this fan actually still had the original incandescent bulbs. It was round shaped ones that were smaller. Surprisingly, they still work. For the video purpose, though, I'm not using them because for several reasons. One is that I don't, in case one of them burns out midway into the video, I don't want that happening. Two is that they get really hot and it's just kind of warm down here. I don't want to have extra heat. And three, these give off better lighting, and these are the proper type of bulbs that you should use for a spotlight in terms of giving off proper lighting. Because when it comes to this regular shaped light bulb, half of the light's trapped inside the spotlight, so you're not really getting the best lighting from it. Like this is on. Like I've mentioned that I wouldn't take it out of Panama for anything, but like if I had to take it down just to work on it or to get it fixed or something like that, I honestly would put this up in place of it for the time being. I know I mentioned not too long ago that I do the carousel, but I like the carousel, but it's just it would look so out of place in the bedroom. Like, it wouldn't look bad, but it's just this would go better with the room. Plus, I had white free soak in there before, so plus this performs a lot better too. So I wouldn't really have to worry about this not being a good performer. And it's quiet too, which is nice. All right, now for medium. The other thing that also makes this an air-cooled version that's different from the King of Fans one is that the light pole chain is actually on the switch housing, not on the spotlight kit itself. But yeah, I was really surprised that this fan performed so well for an air-cooled one. I mean, I know during this time period they still were making pretty good models if they were made by air-cooled and such. Like the I know the Windward too. That was a combination of King of Fans and air-cooled. But I know like a lot of the air-cooled models from that time period, they were still very good performers, and this one definitely can attest to that. I know around this time period though is also when quality in most of the fans, like the King of Fan made ones and such, were starting to take more of a dive compared to earlier years. But they're definitely nowhere near as cheap as they are nowadays. But at the end of the day, though, Hampton Bay, it's just a home center brand, so it's not like it was ever meant to be a high quality brand. But they did have some models, and there's still a few models out there today, like especially on the home decorators line, that are actually not bad for being a home center model. But it's just a lot of people like to overlook it because it's just a company that they like to hate on. I'm not saying that it doesn't deserve as much hate as it gets, but there are definitely quite a few models that are definitely don't deserve the hate that they get, like this, the Cameron 2, the Windward 2, and a few others. I mean, I know the Windward 2 has a 188 motor in it, and with those lots of wind blades, it definitely, I remember when I tested it down here, it performed literally just about the same as a K55 fan, if not more. But depending on the fan, like I can definitely say it outperformed the Veranda Deluxes down here, but it was almost about the same as like the Casablanca K55 fans I've tested down here. Like it outperformed the what was it, the Emerson Premium that I tested down here. Like it outperformed that. It outperformed the Fasco Charleston surprisingly. Yes, I can definitely confirm it too because I tested them both around the same time too. So it's not like that I tested them one a lot later on and that I didn't recall it. But I remember when I tested them when we're both of them down here that the air movement on both of them was actually stronger than the Fasco Charleston that I have. Like the breeze on it underneath it was stronger, and I felt the breeze from it a lot better from a distance. Not to say that the Fasco Charleston isn't powerful, but just to give you guys the idea that there are a few models from Hampton Bay that really do perform well. The issue with them is that some of them get back capacitors over time. But thankfully, this one doesn't have a back capacitor in it. And at the same time, though, the fan never did get used heavily, so that could be another reason. I'm not sure if the Redingtons ever had that issue, but I do, or maybe the Redington 3 did, but I know the Windward 2s definitely have that issue, unfortunately, that they tend to get a back capacitor. So instead of having high speed, you'll tend to have two medium speeds and a low speed. Same thing with the Callaway 2s. fact, out of all the Hampton Bay fans that I have, I feel like this could actually be the quietest one that I've tested down here. Like, no humming on it at all. The motor's dead silent. I just hear the movement of the air, like the air movement sound, and that's literally it. All the other ones I've tested, I mean, they had some sort of hum to a degree. Not some of them had a more serious one, some of them were more quiet, but this one, there's literally no hum to it at all. I mean, it's more quiet than the low profile plus that I have in the kitchen, so. If it was in terms of wanting a quieter fan, I definitely would go for this in the kitchen, but since it's in the kitchen, it doesn't really matter. But that one hums more due to the glass on it getting loose easily. And it did have a bit of a wobble with the white blades facing down, but with the bleached oak side facing down, it literally has no wobble at all. And if I was to install it, I'd honestly would use the bleached oak side instead of the white side. I mean, I do really like how this fan looks with the white side, but in terms of keeping it cleaner looking, I'd rather use the bleached oak side. And just to make it look less plain. And like I said before, this fan, the performance on it is literally about the same as the Hampton Bay Cameron 2, the King of Fans version that, basically, I mean, almost all of them were made by King of Fans. The SMC ones are the ones that you tend to find earlier on, with the round tipped blades, whereas the later ones made by King of Fans have the same blades as these, basically, in terms of the rounded edge tips like these ones do. Like, I remember back when I had the Passport 2 in my bedroom at the old apartment, that even though I liked it a lot, at the time I was like, oh, it's never going to get changed out, but I remembered how I really always did want more of a contemporary looking fan in my bedroom, and that fan just looked way too vintage, and that's why I ended up going with the Infinity. And the low profile was more of a phase that I just wanted to try it out in my bedroom for a bit, because it was always something I wanted to do when I was a kid. And plus, the Infinity I had in my room at the time, it did have a bearing issue. Well, not a bearing issue, but it had some bearing noise to it that bothered me when I slept, so that was the other reason why that fan came down. But by the time I found another Infinity to swap the motors with, I still had the low profile up, but I was already thinking of trying something else in the bedroom. And since I had the brass Infinity in the room at the time and then wear the black one, I just didn't want to have two Infinities up. If there was no Infinity up right now, that white one would have been reinstalled. But I like the Panamint 2 in there better anyways. It goes a lot better with the bedroom. And as much as I like white Infinities, I'd rather have the black one installed out of the two, because that one you don't see often. And it's more unique, in my opinion. Yeah, this fan definitely cranks out a good amount of air. Like, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this is actually a hybrid of like a King of Fans made fan with air-cooled parts. Because King of Fans didn't make this model, so it's not like they didn't. It's just, this one seems to just have better parts on it. I'm not sure why. They only seem to have done it with the white version of the Spotlight for a few years, and then they went back to King of Fans for it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't even. This actually could have been more expensive than the brushed steel one. I'm not too sure, which would explain why you tend to see the brushed steel one a lot more than the white one. But I don't really remember off the top of my head. I do remember the brushed steel one being about 150. This one I don't even remember, but it might have been more expensive or a little bit less. But I don't remember too well. It's been a while, and certain fans I remember the price on back then. Certain ones I don't. And this is unfortunately one of them that I don't remember. Like the carriage house too. I remember when we bought that, and a few years before we bought it for the living room at the other apartment, that it was under $75, I think. I know it wasn't the price that they have it now, like where it was like $80-ish. It was less than that. But I remember it being more expensive than Glendale. Even before we got to Glendale, it was still more expensive than it. Yeah, it's fair. And, even though it's been many years later, and it's never did end up becoming a bedroom fan, it's definitely one that, if I, again, like I said, if I had to take down a fan of a tube, could have had issues like the flywheel got messed up or something. Which the flywheel is kind of a little bit funny, but that's because for about a year or so, I had it in my bedroom with the blade arms on it still, just lying around in the corner, so that could have bent it a little bit. But if it was to ever get worse, I would take it down to get it swapped out, which will take some time because I don't know how to do it myself. A friend of mine knows how to, so I'd have him do it, so I don't risk damaging it or messing up the finish. And have this up as a temporary fan. But it performs good enough. Like it is less than an XLP Casablanca or K55. I mean, obviously it's not going to be the same, but it pushes definitely a strong enough breeze that's like it's around a spinner motor hunter, if not more. I definitely say it's more than a spinner motor hunter. I mean, spinner motor hunter is kind of a wide range, because you have some of them that are more powerful and some of them that aren't. This definitely feels more like more than that. Like it outperforms the Infinity without a question, that out of all the ones that I've tested. Or to be fair, all of them have been flush mounted when I tested them, so it's not the best gauge. But from the Hunter fans I've tested down here, this one definitely seems to outperform a good majority of them. Yeah, it's definitely a fan that I definitely want to install when I get my own house. Some people might say, "Oh, it's not vintage enough." I really could care less if a fan's vintage or not in terms of it being installed. If it's a fan that I feel goes for the look that I want for the room, that's what I'm going to install. Your profile happens to be the one that goes really good with that room, but I wouldn't be opposed to trying out something else. It's just the medallion situation that bothers me. Plus, it gives off good lighting in there, and I'd rather not put this up and have my mom not like it and ask for me to put the other one back. If it was my own house, it wouldn't be an issue because I wouldn't mind the lighting. But yeah, spin down on this is pretty good. It's a good 3, almost 4 minutes of a spin down. Just seeing it though, it just really makes me like picture it in the bedroom at the old apartment. How much I would have enjoyed having it there. But just having the fan itself is honestly what matters to me the most. I mean, 15 years later, yeah, I never did have it, but at least I have it now, so. And it's something I can definitely see myself using in the future anyway, so. Same time though, like I do like it for a kitchen fan, but I feel like I kind of do like this more of a simple looking fan in the kitchen. Something like this I'd rather have like in a bedroom or a spare room. Because for me, when it comes to putting a fan in the kitchen, I'd rather put a fan in there that if it does get a little bit warm looking, that I don't mind it as much, whereas this is a fan I definitely don't want that to happen. Number 2 is one I definitely would do in the kitchen, for the fact that the blades are plastic, so they definitely won't look as worn out over time. And it's an easier fan to keep clean, I feel, since it's just metal and plastic, whereas this is metal with MDF blades. The only problem is the lighting might not be the best, but... And I mean, the other thing is that I have the one or two that I got from Spiffy, but that one came with basically the parts of two of them, except one. So I got two Windward 2s in a sense that are white, except that one of them didn't come with a motor. So I have like the light kit and the blades to another one. So that's the reason why I would put that in the kitchen too, possibly. Just the blades I feel will get yellowed, and I want to be afraid of it if it was in a bigger kitchen. Just the kitchen we have is kind of small, so I feel like it doesn't have enough space to stay away from the stove. And it's the same thing with this one. It's like, since the fan's pretty close to the stove somewhat, I'd rather not put a fan there that I can see it getting yellowed more, even though there's an extractor in the kitchen. I'd rather do it in this kitchen that's a little bit more open spaced, that's further away from it, that it won't, even if the extractor on it, won't get the grease over it as much. Plus the low profile plus, it was already a tiny bit yellowed, so I didn't mind putting that one in the kitchen. Plus it has a good kitchen fan look to it anyways. Alright, now for reverse. The other thing is that it's the only hugger fan I have installed too, and I wanted to have at least one fan installed that was a hugger. And that the other thing is that as a kid, I do remember seeing mostly hugger fans in kitchens, so I kind of wanted to keep that look. And also seeing a hugger fan with 4 lights or 5 blades as a kid was definitely something I saw a lot of, so I wanted to have something here that had that look still. I mean, the fan's it's already 20 years old, but it doesn't look like it's that old. It looks like it just came out a few years ago, so. And that's the other reason why I like that fan a lot for the kitchen, because it definitely has aged well for its design. This one definitely has aged well. Also, I mean, it looks even newer than that. It's one that's a lot more uncommon in terms of finding the parts for it, I feel, because I don't know, it's just, especially with this being made by Air-Cool. Because low profile plus, it's really just a lot of the parts that you find from like the low profile 3, the low profile, or not the low profile 3, that and the Hunter Augusta, basically. If you get parts from both of those, basically you can make your own one of a low profile plus. Plus, I have been seeing them a bit more on Marketplace recently, so I could always find a second one if I needed to, or to steal parts off of. At the time that I got it, it was definitely one that I wasn't seeing around it at all, which is why I traded the terracotta preference that I had for it. So at first I regretted it somewhat, but it's a fan that I never saw myself ever using as an install, whereas the Hunter, I saw myself using it as an install, and I ended up later doing so, and again, it did end up paying off. All right, now for hot. Interesting. Even on reverse, it doesn't wobble at all either. Like it had a slight wobble with the white blades facing down, but it literally has like little to no wobble at all with the stroke side facing down. It's even on reverse. It's definitely kicking a good breeze on reverse too. Like out of all the bedroom fans I've had installed, except for the KDK and the Panama 2 that's in there now, this definitely outperforms all the other fans I've had in there throughout the years. The baseball fan, the Glendale, the Password 2, the White Infinity, the low profile. Like, this outperforms all of them. Alright, so yeah, that'll be it for this video. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for more videos to come.